So let me get to BLG here in just a second. BLG joining me now here on Birds 365. Brandon Lee Gowton, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you on. 4 days out from the Super Bowl, brother. How you doing on this Wednesday morning?
Yeah, I'm excited. I really can't wait for Sunday to be here. I think I
I
speak
know,
for
man.
all of us when I say
It
that.
feels too long, right, brother?
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I agree. No doubt about it. BLJ, how do you see this game, man? We're 4 days out. We talked to you last week. We've been through the hype and the hoopla of the media day and all that stuff, and it's a whole lot of nothing, in my opinion. I'm just trying to get to the game at this point. But what's your overall breakdown? What's your biggest advantage for the Eagles coming into this game, brother?
Yeah, I think, if this team is going to win the Super Bowl, I don't think it's going to be a secret that Saquon Barkley is going to have to be a huge factor and the difference maker, just like he's been for this team most of the season. He's really kind of just unstoppable is the word I keep using right now. And, I think we all say that about Patrick Mahomes a lot. He's inevitable. I say that a lot. But Saquon too. I mean, and you think back to the last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, they really didn't even have a run game going for them against that Chiefs team.
7 carries for 16 yards. It's ingrained in my brain, BLJ.
100%. And I was just watching last night, actually, the Eagles Chiefs game from last year in Kansas City, and obviously, it's not an apples comparison, but they were able to get a bit more of a run game going in that one with DeAndre Swift, and obviously Saquon's a lot better than DeAndre. So, I think that's they're going to need at least one or two of those signature Saquon take it to the house runs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. BLJ, I do want to ask you before we get into some of the nitty gritties, before we break down some of the game, good opening thoughts there by you. How would you describe you've been covering this team for a long time now, BLJ. How would you describe the vibe around this team? People love that word. I'm not a huge vibe word guy, but I do think it matters because these are humans, and when you truly love and play for the person next to you, I think it creates a better output. How do you view the vibe around this Eagles team as they prepare for the Super Bowl? Confident, anxious, focused? What do you see, BLJ?
Yeah, I am a vibe guy, so I'll tap into it here for you. I think sometimes how useful it can be, your mileage will vary, but I remember, just for historical reference, you're feeling extremely confident the Eagles were going to win the Super Bowl back in Super Bowl 52. Like I wrote an article the Monday as I was flying out to Minneapolis that week. It just had a feel. You could just tell. And with this team, I don't know that I can't say it's the same feeling. That's such a unique situation. But I will say, from what I'm seeing from these players at the press conferences and everything, especially Jalen on Monday night, he's looking really loose. And I think that's a really good sign for this team. You don't want to be uptight. You don't, obviously, there's a serious mission here to accomplish, and you want to take your preparation seriously and all that. But I think you have to have fun too. And I think this team plays well when they're having fun. And I think Jalen has been able to play his best when he's had a kind of like that loose demeanor. We saw it the last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. He was also looking pretty loose at opening night that week. So I think it's good to see. I think the players are also part of the reason we're seeing that is that, a number of them were here a couple years ago, and it's not brand new to them. So they're not really like blindsided by this Super Bowl media experience. And obviously some of them, this will be their third one too. So I think they're in a good spot from what I can tell.
How many are there, BLG? Do you remember from Super Bowl 52? I know Jake Elliott. I know obviously Brandon Graham. Who else is still on the team from that 52 team?
So we got Lane Johnson as well. Let me look here. That's a good question.
I didn't think of much more. I was trying to think last night. Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson and Jake Elliott were the ones that came on. I think Jake Elliott was a rookie in that game. If I'm not mistaken.
Rick Lovato, their long snapper as well. Okay. And then I think that's it really. So it's not too many, but a couple guys. This will be their third trip.
Couple vets still around there, which is good stuff there. BLJ, you mentioned I think the obvious, which is the Eagles' biggest advantage in this game is Saquon Barkley. He's been the biggest advantage for the team all year long. When you look at that, what's the strategy coming in offensively? Because John tells me all week that he believes Vic Fangio is a better coordinator than Steve Spags. I can buy that, but I still respect the shit out of Steve Spagnuolo and what he's been able to do for this team. I would assume he's going to have a game plan to stop that guy or at least mitigate him to some extent. And I'll also throw out that the Chiefs are the number one tackling team in the NFL. How many missed tackles did we see on Saquon Barkley's 60-yard touchdown run last week? I don't think that's going to happen with the Chiefs. So knowing that he's your biggest advantage in this game, how do you kind of lean into that advantage to control the game, knowing you got to go up against Steve Spags?
Well, the Eagles aren't playing another game this season, as obvious as that sounds. But I say that to highlight, like, nothing to save Saquon for at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just ride him until it doesn't work, really. I mean, that's how I'm approaching it because, again, unstoppable. Really, no one has proven that they can shut him down. And the teams that, like, have been able to slow him down with any kind of success this season, no surprise that those are also the games where the passing game has been able to get going a bit more. So it's really, it's going to be pick your poison, I think, in that regard. But the way I'm thinking about it is, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. This is the identity that really got the Eagles to the Super Bowl for the most part. Again, with those few exceptions of those, Jalen Hurts really good passing games.
Yeah.
It's been running the ball with Saquon Barkley, and we've seen in the playoffs too. Joe Mixon. James Cook, they had some, not to the success, that major, and obviously the Chiefs opponents lost those games, but we've seen the Chiefs be able to they've been giving up some yards on the ground. So I would say you have to lean into Saquon.
Yeah, how much do you put on the other stuff with the passing game, BLG? I talked about it earlier, and I said I know this team is a running team, and I'm not going to crush Jalen Hurts for the passing game, but let's call a spade a spade. It wasn't where they wanted it to be this year. I said in order for us to win this football game, Jalen's going to have to be NFC championship level game caliber or better in order for us to win this game. Is that an overreaction, or you think that's fair?
I don't think it's necessarily true because of how they've been able to win in spite of it so much. But obviously, when you go up against Patrick Mahomes, the margin for error is razor thin there. So yeah, I get that. I would just say that, like, again, if the defense can be as good as it's been, which will be tested certainly, and Saquon can be as good as it's been, it might just be that Hurts, he doesn't necessarily need to look as good as he was in the championship game, although you certainly take that. But I think it's more about like the high leverage moments. It's like he has to have timely passing.
Right,
third downs, red zone. If he comes up big in these like big moments, maybe some fourth downs mixed in there, that might just be enough.
Yeah, I agree. BLG, good stuff there. I do want to tap into your thoughts on the opponent here. You mentioned Saquon is the Eagles' biggest advantage. I think that's pretty clear in that defense. When you look at this Chiefs team, what's their biggest advantage in this game coming in?
Besides Patrick Mahomes being pretty unstoppable, because that's a pretty big one. Again, I was watching that game from last year, and the Eagles win that game, but man, there's like a lot of drops in that game. There's plays where he's like just about to get sacked. He makes a play. I mean, he's just you can. The thing is, you can play Patrick Mahomes perfectly, do everything you're supposed to do on defense, and we know this Eagles defense under Vic Fangio is so assignment sound. I think that's like the calling card and identity of this defense. They're just so
fundamentally sound. Yep,
exactly. But sometimes it just doesn't matter because he's going to make a play that you can't really do anything about. So that's obviously the biggest thing. But I guess one of my bigger concerns, also more so on the other side of the ball, is like how are the Eagles going to handle, or sorry, related to that in terms of defending Mahomes. I think Jalen Carter, has the ability to really, I'm not going to say shut Mahomes down, but kind of throw him off his game a little bit and make him mortal, maybe force him into a turnover or like a really big sack that comes up at an important part in the game. But the question is, how are the Chiefs going to handle him? Because Trey Smith is really good too.
Really good. I'm happy you brought this up because this is exactly what I talked about before you came on today. It kind of goes both ways, right? Eagles, if they want to win, need Jalen Carter to be great. If the Chiefs want to win, they're going to need Trey Smith to be great.
Exactly. Because I think I don't know if they do it all game long, but they're probably going to be some times where they feel comfortable leaving Trey Smith one-on-one with Jalen Carter. And for a lot of teams, it's not a good idea to leave your right guard one-on-one. And also, I'm curious to see, do they move Jalen Carter around? They did that a tiny bit in their last game, but it really hasn't been a staple for Vic Fangio and this defensive line for Jalen Carter to get moved around. You would think you would want to change that here in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs left guard there, Mike Caliendo, kind of get some opportunities for Jalen Carter to go up against him. Right. But if they don't, and Trey Smith is just one-on-one blocking Jalen Carter, and he's able to kind of, I'm not going to say shut him down entirely because Jalen Carter's too good, but he was able to kind of keep him in check, then obviously that limits what Milton Williams could do probably at that point if he's getting doubled.
Yeah, and they also have Creed Humphrey in there, so they got a pretty good interior of that O-line. It used to be Joe Thuney at left guard until they kicked him out. I think it was week 15 when they kicked him out. All right, BLG, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, obviously the great equalizer. It almost doesn't matter how bad or how much the roster disparity is because they have him. What's the plan to defend him this week? I mean, you already mentioned even if you're perfect, he will still beat you. So do you expect any wrenches that Vic will throw into the game plan? Maybe some blitzing, maybe some, different coverages to try and throw them off. The one thing about Mahomes and Andy, they've seen everything. So you're not going to fool them. What do you do to try and throw them off? What do you expect the defense to do or Vic to do to try and slow down Mahomes?
Yeah, I do think, Vic, it's fair to say that he'll have some, tricks up his sleeve. I think we've seen that in the playoffs. Vic was able to confuse Jaden Daniels at times with some kind of things that the Eagles haven't really been doing this season. Right. So I think there will be some of that. How much does that matter against Patrick Mahomes? I don't know. But maybe, again, it's kind of like I said with Jalen, having those timely moments. It's just like, can you get a win over Mahomes in one of those really high leverage situations? And that could ultimately be the difference in this game. It's tough. There's really no great answer in defending him. There's obviously, I think it's more about don't do the things that are the worst, and that it's don't play man coverage, especially in the red zone, because Patrick Mahomes is really good in those situations. You obviously have to be worried too that he can use his legs. He's a factor there, not in a way that it's
everybody remembers that fourth quarter run in Super Bowl 57.
Well, that kind of thing, exactly. Mahomes will. It's not like he's like Jalen.
He's not looking to run. They're not calling draws. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not designing the offense for the quarterback run game. But in these key moments, he can absolutely break this. He'll have this back breaking run. So you have to be aware of that as well. There's really no great answer. It's really just about I think on the whole, just trying as much as you can not to leave meat on the bone. And that goes for the offense as well. You can't beat Patrick Mahomes kicking field goals and punting. You just have to take advantage of you can't drop an interception. If Mahomes throws you one, you can't do that. You have to capitalize on every situation.
Yeah, and there was some moments in that AFC Championship game where Mahomes was a little sloppy with the ball. So maybe Eagles are able to pounce on one of that there. I'll go back to one of your points here. You brought up about the defense and being disciplined and sound. I think that defensive line, BLG, better be disciplined, because the one other thing about Mahomes that maybe he doesn't get enough credit for, his pocket awareness is superb. The way he moves that pocket, he sees pressure coming, he steps up, moves in, moves out. He makes it really hard to sack him. So if you're Nolan Smith, you don't want to be going too deep, or and creating that lane. I think that defensive line is to be super disciplined going up against Patrick Mahomes this week. You agree?
I do, and it's interesting because I think some of the more success that teams have been able to have against Mahomes is when they've been stunting, and we've seen the Eagles, have some success with that too. So we'll see if they go to that. But obviously, there's any kind of thing you do like that, there's risk to it too. It could be a situation where the defensive linemen are moving around and you block it up, and again, all of a sudden it's Patrick Mahomes taking off. So again, no perfect answer. It's really just. But again, look, I want to give this defense credit too. They've been really great this year. And it's not as simple to say hey, you just do this one thing and it works against the Eagles defense. So that kind of goes both ways as well.
Right. Bill G, you think this defense is better than 22? Me and John have been kind of debating this week.
I think they're different, obviously. I think the pass rush isn't as good as it was clearly in 2022, just because they almost broke the NFL sack record.
70 sacks.
So it's hard to say that aspect is better, but I think the coverage is certainly better, for sure. And I think, again, the assignment sound and also just the battle-tested element, right? That's the biggest issue with that 2022 defense is that who's the best quarterback they faced that entire season and beat? It was Trevor Lawrence, probably. That's probably the answer to that question. Right.
Which is crazy. The best quarterback he beats Trevor Lawrence. That's
exactly. Whatever you think of Trevor Lawrence, okay, he's probably fine at best. Whatever. Anyway, this defense much more battle tested. They went up against Joe Burrow. They went up against Lamar Jackson. You name it. In the playoffs,
Stafford,
Jordan Love,
Daniels,
Stafford, Daniels. Exactly. So I would just say they've earned more benefit of the doubt, and also they were just better in terms of they were literally the best defense in the NFL in terms of fewest points allowed this season. So and then just trusting the coordinator and giving Vic Fangio the benefit of the doubt, and what I think you want from a defensive coordinator, which is not just overseeing a lot of good numbers, but also being able to specifically draw up a game plan for the other opponent. And I give Vic the edge in that category.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing John pushes back on me with the coverage, because I'm with you. I think the coverage this year is better. Now, maybe it's maybe it's me being a prisoner of the moment, but he's James Bradbury was a second team All Pro that year. He was great in coverage. You're wrong, and I'm like, I don't know. It just feels better to me this year, but I guess it can be a little bit of a toss up. We just talked about Mahomes there, BLG. I want to talk about the Eagles quarterback now, Jalen Hurts, and you kind of mentioned it. You don't think he has to do too much in this game, but look, he had one of the greatest games of his life in the last Super Bowl. Didn't get the job done. This year, I think he's focused on one thing, and that's getting the job done, and that's winning the football game. What do you think he has to do in this game? What do you think his approach is coming into this game in order to get the Eagles over the top?
Yeah, you highlighted it there. Like, he has this awesome game against the Chiefs, and a couple years ago, Eagles lose the game. He doesn't even play that well, I would say. Like, not terribly, but not great in Kansas City last year, and the Eagles win. So, kind of weird how that doesn't really line up and make sense like you would traditionally think it would. I do have confidence that Jalen can play a really good game in this spot. I think it's even if the biggest Hurts skeptic wouldn't be able to say that the moment is too big for him, that's not the issue at all. Clearly, I mean, it's not like, oh man, he can't handle the moment. Like some of these other top quarterbacks, I would say, kind of haven't had the track record of that, like Lamar Jackson a bit, like Dak Prescott. Jalen, I trust in these kind of moments here. And I think, he's going to get his fair share of opportunities. And the one thing I want to see from him is that it's not necessarily bombing it down the field all game long, but like that has to be an element to this offense, because you saw it last couple weeks ago against the Commanders. Right, he's really good at those throws,
and also one
exactly
throw like that can change the game.
Exactly, my point exactly. Yes, those are huge plays, and AJ's really good at catching them too. You have to give him a chance. I know you're trying to limit the turnovers and everything, but in that situation, it's a fourth down, turnover and downs anyway, so why not take the chance? But also, like, the thing that I don't think it's crushing the Eagles if they have an arm punt every once in a while. I'm not saying interceptions are a good thing.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Take the shot, give your number one wide receiver an opportunity to make a big play, and if not, you live with the result.
100%. So you're going to hit on that more than you have the turnover. So I think that's absolutely key. And we saw it in the last Super Bowl, like those big plays down the field. So I do want to see those mixed in.
I agree with that. Good stuff there. BLG, I do want to ask you a scenario, all right now, and I want to get your take. What would you rather have, all right? And I'll tell you, both of them would be nerve-wracking. Either way, no matter which way it goes. Would you rather have a lead by 4 with the defense on the field with 2 minutes to go? Mahomes has, let's give him 2 timeouts. Or would you rather be down by 4 with the ball with 2 timeouts, 2 minutes to go in the game? What do you got, BLJ?
Yeah, I think anyone is insane if they're not saying down, because you need to end the game on your terms. You have to. You cannot. How often do we need to see Patrick Mahomes deliver in these late situations? Again, I was just referencing the Eagles Chiefs game from last year. He had the ball in that situation, and they should have won. Marquez Valdez-Scantling drops the game-winning pass. Yeah. And there was even the situation there in the final play of the game. It's 4th and 25. Most teams are done in that situation. Mahomes still hits Justin Watson in the hands. He just drops the ball. It would have been a first down. So, you're not stopping Mahomes in that situation. This Eagles defense is great. Again, I think they earn a lot of benefit of the doubt and praise and everything, but I don't care what defense. Mahomes could be going up against the 85 Bears. I'm taking Mahomes in that situation. So It has to be the Eagles. I think they have to end the game. It has to be like a walk-off touchdown, too. You can't even give him seconds for me.
I know. 12 seconds was evidently too much for him in Buffalo. So now you're right about that, man. But, what do you feel about the offense in that situation? Because that's where BLG, I think, all right, that passing talk is now real. Remember that comment from Jalen Hurts still rings in my head. It doesn't get you until it gets you. Well, if it's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, that's when it could ultimately get you. Would you be confident that they could 2-minute drill, pass their way down and get into the end zone?
We haven't seen it a lot, so I can't say the track record is there. But there's a similar situation against the Saints that obviously kind of worked out well, where Hurts didn't have to do a ton of the heavy lifting. He made a good throw on the that crossing route to Goddard. I think it was schemed up well and got him open with the rub route there. And also, you don't have to go away from Saquon entirely in that situation. Obviously, you have to be mindful of the clock. But if you're saying 2 minutes here, you some time you can mix him in, and also you can still throw to him. That's still an element there. Yeah, that's true. I do think they have enough weapons on offense that we should expect them to be able to to depending on the situation, field goal or touchdown or whatever. Yeah, you said down four. Yeah, to get into the end zone there.
BLJ, every Super Bowl, at least it feels this way, seems to have an unexpected hero. Okay,
Yeah.
you go and go back to the 17 Super Bowl. I think there was 2 in that game. Well, there was many in that game, but Brandon Graham, and I'll give Corey Clement one as well. All right, undrafted rookie running back making multiple huge plays in a Super Bowl. You go back to the 22 Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the unsung hero in that game was Kadarius freaking Toney with a punt return and a touchdown. So, who do you think has the chance to be the unexpected hero in this game for either team, for whoever you think?
Yeah, I was looking at the odds for Super Bowl MVP, the long shot odds especially. I'm like, what's the best long shot bet here? You're going to, let's just say, put down like $10 and win whatever, 90, something crazy. And one of the ones that I liked from that like deep cut standpoint was actually Reed Blankenship. And he's like plus like 90,000 or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Because that's a guy who makes plays on the ball. And earlier in the season, especially, he had like a couple of game sealing interceptions. We just saw, and his stock seems a little bit lower coming off the NFC Championship game. Had some struggles against Zach Ertz. I don't think the Eagles are going to defend Travis Kelce in the exact same way. And the Eagles haven't had like they haven't struggled to cover the tight end like all season long. That has not been a comment. They've been one of the better teams.
I will say to you, I saw 11 catches for 30-plus-year-old Zach Ertz. Boy, what's going to happen with Kelce? But I agree with you. That hasn't been an issue all year.
So I think Patrick Mahomes is going to throw towards Reed Blankenship's way at times. He gets 2 interceptions, and the offense kind of just has a kind of day, and there's no one obvious on the offense. Like I could see that happening.
I like that. I'm a big fan of that answer. Reed Blankenship as a little bit of a sleeper. Now I'm going to make you go into enemy territory. If they won, who do you think could be because the weird thing, Bill G, the one thing I will say that I like, but I don't like all at the same time with this Chiefs offense is they don't have one great big super playmaker like we do. We have AJ Brown, Saquon, all these big great names. They just have 6, 7, 8 dude, Noah Gray, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Xavier Worthy, Travis, all these different dudes that they can work in. Who do you think could be an unexpected hero for the Chiefs if there was one?
Yeah, I don't know if this will count for you. I'm going to say Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think he's been kind of coming on, especially late in the season, and that would make sense too. Rookie player, maybe he's kind of finally, instead of like hitting the rookie wall, it's just the opposite. He's kind of finding his groove. And we saw him have a nice game here against Buffalo. He had 6 for 85. He had the touchdown. Later in the season, his numbers have been better certainly than they were for a big part earlier in the season. And I just think the impact he has on that offense too, not even just the numbers, but the ability to stretch the field. And the Chiefs do a lot of things with him in terms of motion and trying to get your attention on him. And up at Bleeding Green Nation right now, we have an article, a film review from Johnny Page, and he basically said within that article, like stopping Xavier Worthy, like that's the key. He thinks that's the key to really kind of limiting this. Obviously, stopping Patrick Mahomes is the real key.
He opens up their offense a lot. By the way, Johnny Page does awesome work. I watch all his a lot of his stuff. Yeah, so he's great. From Bleeding Green Nation. Make sure you guys go and follow, by the way, Brandon Gowton at Brandon Gowton on X and read all his work at Bleeding Green Nation. It's truly one of the best Philadelphia Eagles websites that there is. I go there every single day. So well done by you, BLJ. All right, BLJ, I'm going to get you a couple predictions from you, but before I do that, I would feel remiss if I did not ask you. 2 first-rounders for Myles Garrett. Take it or leave it. Are you doing it, BLJ?
I don't even know if it'll cost that much, but to me, I don't care what the price is. Like it's Myles Garrett. This isn't like there are some players where it's like, all right, let's see the price before we trade for them. With Myles Garrett, you're just saying no, get him no matter what.
Can you imagine him and Jalen Carter on the same defensive line?
I think it's not an apples to apples situation, but I do think it could be. Because he's already been like defensive player of the year, has been awesome. But I think this could be like defensive version of Saquon Barkley. Like I think he could hit a whole nother gear,
a whole nother level that he has not reached. Yeah, because he's the only guy over there. I mean, you could put him on the same line. And by the way, Nolan Smith is coming alive too in a real way. He's got 4 sacks in the playoffs. I just mentioned BLJ. I don't know. Maybe you can give me some more clarity on this with some of the advanced statistics. But I kind of said, boy, is Josh Sweat falling off? He's got 1 sack in the last 8 games. Not since Pittsburgh has he had a sack. Now, he's been good against the run. He's had some tackle for losses. You know, there's some more data there that probably I'm leaving out. But you look at Nolan Smith, he's only had one game in the last 8 where he didn't have a sack. He's been that good. So it's kind of switched and who's been the main edge rusher. Any concern on Josh Sweat with that regard?
Well, we did see him, really slow down, obviously, in the second half of last year. So, I wonder how much that might be related to it. He did have a big TFL in the, I think it was the Rams game. I think he's just kind of solid for what he is, and I don't expect him to be back with this team as he hired a new agent and is going to be entering free agency. I think he's kind of evened out of just a solid starting defensive end. Good
stuff there. So BLG's making the move for Myles Garrett. I am too. The reason I said two, though, BLG, is remember, our first-round picks are going to be low. They're going to, especially if we get Myles Garrett. Next year's first-round pick is going to be low, and this year's is going to be 31 or 32. So maybe that's not enough. If you're trading a player like Myles Garrett, you probably want a top 10 or top 15 pick maybe. So we'll see how that all shakes out. All right, BLJ, it's time for some predictions from your brother. If the Eagles win this game, all right, give me your top 3. Who's hoisting the MVP? I know Reed was your dark horse, but there's got to be top 3 guys you could see getting the MVP for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Saquon, obviously number 1, which is the actual how the odds are reflected. Got to go Jalen number 2 because quarterbacks just get the award sometimes when they don't even play that well. And I do think Jalen will play well, but he might not even need to play well to get the award. Yeah. And number 3, I think this guy is also underrated. I talked about Jalen Carter having the impact, but I think that might be something where like the stats don't necessarily reflect that, and that could matter in terms of the voting or how this process works. I think Zach Bond is kind of undervalued when it comes to Super Bowl MVP because that's a guy who does fill up the stat sheet. He'll probably lead the team in tackles. He'll have a sack, TFL, forced fumble. If the offense doesn't have an amazing game and Zach Bond is out here filling up the stat sheet, and if he makes like the crucial play of the game, which he absolutely could, I think Zach Bond is a good bet.
That's a well thought out answer there because you're right. For me, I had Carter, but you're right. He's 100 million people watch the Super Bowl. About 10 million know what the heck they're, maybe even less than that, know what the heck they're watching. So, people like stats, and that's what will win the award. So good pick there for the top 3 MVP picks. All right, brother, score prediction. Get it on the record, your final score prediction and your winner for Super Bowl Sunday. And by the way, it's only Wednesday. You do reserve the right to change this on bleedinggreennation.com.
Yeah, I do. Right now, I sit here Wednesday. I've been saying pretty much since the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, I think I mentioned this here before, that I just don't think they're going to be stopped. I think they're going to three-peat. And that's regardless of opponent. I don't care. It wasn't about who they're going to play. So I would kind of be a fraud if I didn't stick with that, because what information has really changed for me to say.
I was reading your website and I'm like, oh, is BLG going to pick the Chiefs today? I said that this morning. Are you doing it?
I think it'd be disingenuous to not do it. I can't, if I just take the Eagles because I want the Eagles to win or whatever, then I don't think that that's not how it works. I can't change my pick from what I've been saying all season long. I've been saying it. I said it since they won.
The Super Bowl last year, you said it. I saw your article,
and I've been saying all season long too. So I don't know how I'm supposed to change that right now. Let me be clear. I don't think the Eagles can't win. That's not what I'm saying. And I think Saquon Barkley and Vic Fangio especially make me wonder if I should move off this stance. But at the end of the day, I think I have to stick with what I've been saying all along. And I would feel very dumb if I doubted the Chiefs and they won. So I have to take the Chiefs. I'm going to say it's a close game, which basically is every Chiefs game. I'm going to say it's 26-23.
Wow. BLG picking the Chiefs. Tough to pick against them. BLG, great stuff, man. We appreciate it. Before we let you go, what's one thing you're watching early at the start of the game when you first turn that thing on? What's one thing you're looking to see that could dictate how the rest of the game plays out?
Maybe Nick Sirianni, if he's crying again.
There you go. That's a good one. Another great answer there from BLG. Crying at the anthem. Will he learn from that and be less emotional? Good stuff, BLG. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Make sure you guys go and check him out at Bleeding Green Nation and follow him at Brandon Gowton, one of the best in the business. Thank you, BLG. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, brother?
Appreciate it.
There he is, BLG, dropping on us. Great stuff there for Brandon Gowton. I cannot believe he picked the Chiefs. Holy shit. That's objective right there from BLG. All right. That's objective from BLG. Joe Whipp's telling me to relax. Why am I relaxing? Why am I relaxing? I don't got time to relax, Joe. Holy mackerel. BLG going heel on us. Look at that. Look at that. I understand his reasoning. Boo. The boo birds are out. The boo birds are out. Get them out of here. I thought BLG was great today. I did. I enjoyed that interview. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking to BLG. He always has a good answer. He always has a good reasoning. He always has good reason, for some of his takes. And I really liked the Zach Bond take for MVP with the stats and stuff like that. So good stuff there. Yeah, Don, you're right. Relaxing is not in my vocabulary. Potentially, you're right about that. Keith says, I'm over here cussing like a sailor. Keith, I blame Johnny Mack for that. You guys get the PG version of Johnny Mack. You talk to John McMullen for 60 seconds off the air. F-bomb every fourth word. That's Johnny Mack. Every fourth word. I'm telling you. Every fourth word. I'm dumbfounded when I talk to John off the air. Even in text. Fuck this, F that. I'm like, oh my goodness, John. Wayne says, good interview, but terrible ending. Hey, listen, I do appreciate him being objective. All right. Most people, and he grew up an Eagles fan, BLJ. All right. So I do appreciate him being objective. And I thought the score was right on the number, 26-23. Anthony Lear says, now I want to blow out. Kirsten says, I refuse to believe you, Zander. Kirsten, I promise you. I wouldn't lie to you, Kirsten. I'll do a lot of things. I will not lie to you. I promise you that. I don't know how to lie. I'm not a very good liar. That's why I don't do it. I'd much rather tell the truth and deal with the pitfalls of telling the truth. All right. I wouldn't lie to you, Kirsten. Johnny reminds me of a great ball buster. He is a ball buster. Just talk about Bradbury when we get off the air. That's true. That's true. Say Bradbury stinks and Johnny Mack will blow a gasket. There's a couple things that get John to blow a gasket. Sometimes you got to work him into the show, because it creates some good content. But I thought that was a great interview. Did you guys enjoy that interview with BLG? I enjoyed the interview with BLG. I thought he was great. I really do. I think he does a really good job. John Drunk must be funny. I've seen him a little tipsy. We had him at a remote broadcast a couple years ago. Johnny Mack likes his beer. He likes beer. I'm not a beer drinker. I don't drink beer. Very good segment. Yeah, I thought BLG was good.